what's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Pack Leader Podcast. This is season 4, episode 5. BB, how we doing?
We're doing well, Coach. How we doing?
Not too bad. I would be better if it was a little warmer.
Listen, we live in South Carolina for a reason. I don't know what this cold snap is about, but whoever's in charge needs to get it right.
All right. It's 39 degrees out right now.
It was like 24 this morning. I was bewildered.
Well, we head to Colorado this weekend, so I hope you got
I guess it's a warm-up for that.
Right, because I heard it's supposed to be pretty cold there.
And high. We need some oxygen. We need parkas.
All of it.
We need everything you can have for that.
Snow, elevation, all of it. So, but no, I am looking forward to that. Even though we leave super early Friday, which we'll talk a little bit about, but I'm just glad to be back at it. You know, breaks are good, and I definitely enjoyed my time with family over Christmas break. But those last 3 or 4 days, I just, I felt myself getting a little bit anxious. Like, man, I'm ready to get back to it. Jump back into competition.
I felt like my kids were multiplying. I was like, I got 4 kids, but if it sounds like there's 7 in the house. They get louder and more obnoxious and more. Like, they need school.
They started back today, right?
Yeah, yesterday, actually. Okay. They started yesterday. My wife started back today. Different school districts for anyone who's concerned. My wife teaches in Chapin. That's Lexington, Richland District 5. My kids go to school right here in town in the Newberry County School District. So, Newberry started yesterday. My wife started today. It's been a whole thing in my house.
And already might get a snow day Friday.
Right. Drama. Just drama at my house but that's par for the course.
Yeah, that's funny. Appreciate everyone tuning in. I wanted to go ahead and jump into our segment, All Things Newberry Wrestling. Blanton, hit us with a pin pool update.
So we're up to 45 pins on the year, which, about halfway through puts us slightly above our average. Mm-hmm. But still shy of actually where we were last year. Last year we crushed it. 45 pins right now. 8 at Midwest, which was a huge weekend for us. John Parker leads the team with 10, 3 of which came at Midwest. He picked up one against Coker the other night. Kel Alderman is in second place with 5, and we have a tie for third with 3 pins each between Chance Jackson and Kel Schrader. Kel got one the other night against Coker as well to pull himself into a tie for third. We have lots of guys with 2 pins, so obviously that's going to be a big list. But Cale, in addition to picking up a couple pins, he had the fastest pin of the year at Midwest in the second round of the championship bracket. He had a pin over Laith Ibrahim of Colorado Mines in 25 seconds, which tops Chance's, who he's tied with now.
Yep.
Tops Chance's fastest pin, 44 seconds, which was against Brandon Johnson of West Liberty at, I believe that was at the King Open.
Yeah, it was at the King Open.
So Chance had the fastest pin at the King Open. Not only did Cale tie Chance's 3 pins for third place, but he took fastest pin from Chance. So the heavyweight guys are battling out for supremacy there.
Yeah.
But good to see. We are up to $416 per pin with the pin pool, and that is with a total of 129 unique members. So 129 people are equaling a total of $416. We'd really like to get that to $450. So if you know anybody that's a supporter, send them our way. Let's get them linked up with a pin pool, but we'd love to get to 450 before the end of the season. We were over 500 last year, so 450 is still a drop. So challenge to you guys. Let's get it up at least to 450. Love to get back to where we're at. We're 507 or something.
We were 502 last year.
502, 502 last year. Love to get to 450 before the end of the season, but everyone who's a member, thank you so much. Your support means the world. And shout out to Taylor Pinson. She is our newest pin pool member. She joined December 19th. If you have joined since then, send your correction and we will point it out in the next month's episode. But pin pool guys, thank you so much. You guys help us more than you realize, and it is a huge fundraiser for our program, and it's a huge helper for our day-to-day operations, as well as increasing that student-athlete experience.
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think I missed anybody. I just ran a report this morning. She was our most recent. So definitely appreciate you, Tay Penn, helping us move the needle a little bit as far as an increase from last month when we gave you the pin pool update. But just to echo Coach, I really appreciate everyone who is generous enough to pledge to the pin pool, because that really goes a long way, especially when you think about the trip this coming weekend. That's a trip we are solely responsible for in terms of having to fundraise for flights, cars when we get out there, food, shout out to Western Colorado. They at least waived the entry fee since we're coming from so far. But, the pin pool really is huge when it comes to supplementing that budget. So thanks to everyone. Ways you can continue to help moving the needle if you have already pledged. There's a link that's really easily accessible on our website and on our social media, especially on like our Instagram page. You can go to the link in the bio. But by copying and pasting the link to our pin pool form, it's really easy to shoot that out via text. Everyone's on Facebook, reposting that on Facebook, reposting on your social media to people who you feel like have some stake in Newberry College Wrestling and or just your son who's on the team and might be willing to give. So please do what you can to help us continue reaching that goal of $450 per pin. But just one more time, thank you to everybody who's joined this year.
Real quick, I want to dive into a couple of things on the pin pool. Have we put out the splash items?
Not yet. We will.
Okay, so be on the lookout for splash items. So pin pool, you jump in, you make a big splash, right? So we have splash items. These are items that will, maybe they're not. So the pin pool obviously is going to end up being a big pool of cash dollars that, for sure, we could allocate to these items. But maybe you're not sure how you want to donate, or maybe I'd love to make a big impact up front, right off the bat, or whatever. Obviously everybody's got different mindset and different ways to contribute. But these splash items are things that we plan to implement that help us out immediately, that are sort of big ticket items. So maybe it's a set of dumbbells for our weight room at the wrestling room. Maybe it's a
dryer,
a washer and dryer. We would love if anybody is getting a new washer and dryer and has a good one, please give us the good one that you're getting rid of. We need a good semi-new washer and dryer. What other
really anything?
Treadmills,
ellipticals,
cardio equipment, those types of things, bikes. Lots of items on our splash items that we will be sending out officially, hopefully coming up in the next month or so. But again, please reach out if you have anything. We'd love to hear about it, and if it's not something that can help us, we'll just tell you. But if it's something that would be great for us, we would love to take it off your hands, and it could help us out. Additionally, Coach, we haven't talked about this, so pardon me for throwing this out
Go for it.
randomly.
Okay.
But I've gotten feedback from one or two of my buddies who, a little bit younger, a little bit
more hip.
Not that. Just would like to be able to pay their pin pool
along the way
pledge as we go, like maybe monthly when you send out the newsletter.
Okay.
Is the link always live?
The link is always live. So 2 links to differentiate. There's one link that you can go pledge, and then there's a link where you can give now. The link to give now is on our official wrestling website, so I'll include those instructions in my monthly correspondence to all the pin pool members, because you can certainly give on a monthly basis. The tab literally just says give now, and you don't even have to specify that it's coming to men's wrestling, because they've done a good job over in the business office of going ahead and linking each team's account too. So yeah, if you want to do that, they'll run a report every month. Just maybe make a note that that's what you're doing, so we don't think it's just a random gift, although I can probably put 2 and 2 together and see. Right. But yeah, if you definitely want to give along the way, you can.
Right. So for instance, let's say you're a national champion pin pool member, $10 a pin, and last year we had 100 pins.
Right.
That's $1,000 at once. Whereas if I've been paying monthly, let's say we got 10 pins this month, $100 check's a little easier to cut
for sure.
than that $1,000 check.
Yeah.
So if you're watching and you would like a easier way to pay, there is a link to a give now. Please donate or notate on that donation. Excuse me. What it's for is for the pin pool, and it's for the month of XYZ, and that'll just be a way that sort of a pay as you go. That maybe if that big check at the end of the year is stretching out a little bit can help you, and it'll help us along the way as well.
Yeah, definitely. No, great point. I'm glad you mentioned that. And I'll make sure I get that info out to you. So thanks again. Next up, I wanted to jump into the competition update. We've only had 2 events since our last podcast, but they've been really great events. We had, in my 4 years here, one of the best showings at the Midwest Classic that we've had so far, with a very young team that I think we can continue building on.
For sure.
Finished 19th out of 43 teams. Really strong start. On that first day, because of how some of those guys wrestled on the backside, we were actually in 10th place.
Yep.
But yeah, really standout performances from 125 all the way through heavyweight. I think the big elephant in the room is John Parker, who was our first finalist since 2018 when Isaiah made it.
Right. Yeah, John Parker, obviously he's been sort of our most consistent wrestler of the year. He's very green in some ways, but I tell him this all the time, and I've said to other people, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, Coach. He's certainly better at winning wrestling matches than he is at wrestling.
Hey, I take that any day.
Right. He's still working on things that are borderline basic and fundamental every day. He meets with me at 8 a.m. He does not give me a day off. He is the most militant individual we've got probably ever. But it's obviously paying off. He showed up. He ended up with 3 pins, which led the team and was in the top few of pins at the Midwest Classic. But made it to the finals and actually was winning that match until about 2 seconds left in the match. Mm-hmm. So, this is a guy who a few years ago probably had no business wrestling in college and is now not only our most consistent and, arguably best wrestler, but is 2 seconds away from being our first Midwest Classic champ since, I think, Trung in maybe 16?
Yep, Trung was 14. I think 14 maybe?
14, yeah. So it's been a while. Huge shout out to John Parker for just doing what it takes and figuring it out.
Yeah, we joke and we give him a hard time about, a lot of things. But what I tell the guys all the time is I think what separates, mediocre from good from great to exceptional is your consistency. Mm-hmm. And he's consistent,
Yes, his bad days aren't as bad as
right.
they could be. And that's really what he's worked to eliminate that, more so than elevating his good days.
For sure. And in that match, in the finals, there was a few controversial calls. I remember the referee on the one out of bounds exchange. First of all, he calls a reversal. He meant to call a reversal, but then calls 3 takedowns, but then also calls locked hands at the same time. And so, we're going over to the table to try to figure out, well, what did you call so we know what the challenge.
Right.
So it, started off a little chaotic.
He was lucky he only had 1 brick because I would have thrown like 4.
Yeah. So that was controversial. In hindsight, you always might make different decisions, but my point is that kid from McKinstry, going into the tournament was ranked number 2 in the country. So
right.
For John to have 3 pins in his path to the finals and then wrestle that close of a match with the number 2 kid in the country shows that the hard work and the consistency is paying off.
For sure, and I think he had a great season up to that point. Had gotten him up to maybe 10th, mm-hmm. I think 11th,
yep.
and that tournament itself got him up to 6th.
Yes.
So, again, hats off to John Parker. That's what hard work and execution and consistency can do. He went from 11th to 6th in 2 days just because of those things.
Yeah, and that's why we go to that tournament.
Absolutely.
If you want to be the best, you got to beat the best, and that's where at that time of the year most people in Division II wrestling are going. Other fun facts, because he certainly wasn't the only standout. You already mentioned he was our first finalist since Royal in 2018. Trung was our last champion in 2014, so it's good to get back into the finals. And like I said, I plan to continue building on that. But Hunter McCullough, redshirt freshman at 125, he went 3-2, but he also had the second most tech falls in the least amount of time. So.
Right.
He, when he won, he was pretty dominant, and I was really impressed with him at the beginning of the year. I felt pretty frustrated with him, not at him, but with him, that a lot of the things he's working on isn't translating from practice to the match. And I felt like, he kind of started to turn the corner out there with some of that stuff. And so that's really good to see. Schrader at heavyweight, we mentioned he picked up some pins out there. He had the 3rd fastest pin in the tournament with a pin time of 25 seconds. And we already kind of talked about that. And then Newberry as a squad, we had the 3rd most pins in the least amount of time with the total of 8. So, we showed up to wrestle. Obviously, the more people you get winning and in the finals, the better. That's the goal, is to win the whole tournament. But I was really proud for where we are, where our potential is this year with how we went out and competed, even when we lost.
Oh, for sure. And just to put that back in context, I know we've mentioned it on the previous couple episodes, but we've got a redshirt freshman in the lineup at every single weight from 125 to 165, which is
and the 65 is up 2 weight classes.
Right, and our 65 pounders are 49 pounders. So the first 60% of our lineup is freshmen. And then we've got some upperclassmen who, if these first 6 guys can keep us in striking distance, hopefully the upperclassmen can close a duel out for us or whatever. But to accomplish some of these things, especially at a tournament like that, mm-hmm. with a group that young, is huge.
Yeah, absolutely. And so other standouts, I'm thinking up and down the lineup. It was good to see Braden compete. And he had, I'm sure everyone in the country can go about the go talking about like the unfortunate circumstances, the injuries and that type of thing. But, with regard to Newberry Wrestling, Braden certainly had a tough start to the season because of an injury. So, to see him get out there and wrestle Peace in a really close match, who's, really tough guy, top guy in the country right now. I could pull it up. I forget what he's ranked, but that was a solid win. We had him dead to rights on the edge there, and we gassed. I went back and watched film in that match, and I'm like, you couldn't do anything in that last 10 seconds? You couldn't grab a wizard?
No, yeah, but like you said, we had him dead to rights. No, we didn't just have him dead to rights. We had him buried, and it got stopped for potentially dangerous.
Right.
So, I mean, things like that are tough. I thought Ethan really finally started turning a corner. I think Dennis kind of, you want to talk about unfortunate, I think he found himself sort of behind the 8 ball starting back at the Carolina Clash when he had the flu, and he was sick as a dog.
Yeah.
Like, as sick as I've ever seen somebody compete outside of Michael Jordan in the flu game. Right? Like he was down and out, wrestled 2 of the 3 matches at the Carolina Clash, and then I think that set because the pace with which he wrestles is
pretty high.
Frantic. I mean, it is borderline out of control, in usually a good way. But I think that sickness set him back a little bit, and then I think he was just starting to get close at Midwest and still a little behind the 8 ball. And then we went on break.
And he was still throwing up when we got back from break.
Right.
I feel like, and we'll jump into Coker, that's the first time I've seen him look like himself since, King Open.
Right. Not only that, but I was actually going to add that going on break probably didn't help that. And I think we saw lingering remnants of not being back to his normal self, even in the Coker match.
Right.
So because he wasn't pushing the pace for the entire 7 minutes the way he normally does, he actually was like kind of hanging on, surviving there at the end, which is not very Dennis-like. But it was also against probably one of their best guys.
Yeah, so. I agree. So he did great. I mean, Reed picked up some really solid wins over Gannon and over Seton Hill. Dayton picked up really solid wins. He pinned his opponent from Central Oklahoma, dominated with a major over his opponent from Montevallo and from Garrett. And again, talking about that first day while we were able to finish in 10th, I mean, that was some of those bonus point wins on the backside. So, shout out to the guys for a great performance, and look forward to building on that as we get into the rest of the season. Next up, we had Coker this past Friday. Dominated 39-9. Slow start at 25 and at 33, but
kinda, but not really. I mean, you can make strong arguments that it wasn't as bad as maybe it looked, because Hunter got pinned, but he was winning when he got pinned.
Yeah.
And then got caught in a cradle, which I don't know what it is with them. It's like kryptonite.
Right. We spent an hour yesterday on cradle.
They're identical.
Yeah.
So that, I mean, I guess that's why. If one of them can't stop a cradle, none of them can stop a cradle.
Right.
So that happened, and then Ethan goes out and is wrestling their best guy and loses by a takedown, and it's only a full takedown because of riding time.
Yeah.
If he actually gets the takedown and gets a little riding time, he wins the match. And not only that, but old buddy had to go to the hospital afterwards. So
yeah, I guess what was up with that? I don't see anything.
We didn't get any details on the situation, but I guess if you're gonna lose in such a way that sends your opponent to the hospital, I mean, I guess whatever, be that tough to beat, I guess. But after those 2 matches, we really turned it on.
Yeah, I mean, to put that match in context, Spitco is ranked number 14 in the country right now on the coaches poll. So it's not like he was a scrub. And it was a 1 takedown match and a reversal. So 6'3". I think that's just kind of, it illustrates the potential that Ethan has. And after that, I mean, we bonus point victory in most matches with the exception of 57. I thought Nick Humphreys wrestled from a strategic perspective, I thought he wrestled a perfect match. For sure. When you're undersized, you don't want to be getting underneath all that weight. You hand fight, you move forward, you wrestle smart, and kind of take your opportunities as they present themselves. And then he was a book bag on top. You know
right,
what I mean?
Yeah. So that was a top performance from him that I did not expect.
Yeah, no, he did really well, and that's why congrats to him and Dennis, because Dennis beat Karinsky, like you said, who was one of their best wrestlers, and then with Nick wrestling as well as he did. Congrats to you guys on winning. Athletes of the week. What's it, like National Army Guard?
Yeah, South Carolina National Guard.
Yeah, so they just won that for this week, and it was awesome. So building on that, and we certainly will need to build on that because we got Belmont Abbey coming up next, which we'll talk a little bit about as we get into predictions and previewing of that. But they're definitely a really tough team. They got some studs in the lineup, and we'll chat about that next. But I wanted to talk about rankings. So when we look at the region rankings, just to give everybody a quick update on that, we are currently in fourth in Super Region 2 standings. Lander, Pembroke, and King are first, second, and third, respectively. Lander has 92 points, Pembroke 82, and then King with 64. We are right behind King with 60. But as far as the number of opponents we have ranked, Lander, Pembroke, and King each have 9 wrestlers ranked, respectively, and then we have 8. And so, as we get through this second half of the season, getting ready to see more region opponents, definitely look forward to continue climbing the ladder once we have an opportunity to wrestle some of these guys.
Sure.
And as far as national rankings, you want to talk a little bit about that, Blanton?
Yeah, so the open mat, which I feel always gives us a little bit more respect, just because they understand what's going on down south.
Well, and they rank out to 20.
Right, that helps as well. But at 20 is Dayton Fields at 174. Kind of just cracking the lineup, but he's just been one of our stalwarts. He's been consistent. He's a guy that I actually expect his rank to climb, and honestly, I look for him to push to be an All-American. Same with Andrew Reed. He's at 19 at 184. A guy who was a round away from getting on the podium last year and pushed, and that was at 74 though. So, but pushed the Western guy who is a 2-time All-American and beat Dayton at Midwest. Pushed him to a real tight match. Got behind early, but really came back late. And then John Parker, like we talked about earlier, he was 11th in the last rankings. He's up to number 6 now, based on the showing there at Midwest. In WCA coaches poll is the, I guess the more official one.
Yeah.
John Parker is at 6 in that one as well. No one else is ranked, but they only go to 12, right?
Yeah, they go to. I think we bumped it up to 15
Okay.
as of recent. This is recent. I'm actually on the committee. Me and RC are the representatives from Super Region 2, and we made the decision last month to extend it out to 15.
Okay,
So,
but it previously was only ever 12. So if we never had guys ranked that, they may be 13 or 14 and weren't getting ranked. But now we're up to 15.
Yep.
Again, Fields and Reed at 19 and 20, probably not going to get the same love in the coaches poll, but John Parker is at 6 in both polls, and that is a much more recent ranking.
Yep.
So, looking good in the rankings, continue to build there, and especially with the, like you said, the upcoming region events, that's a great opportunity for our guys to start overtaking some of those spots regionally that, you're, let's say, Dayton, for example, is 20th. There may be somebody who's like 16th. You beat them in a duel. That's a great way to climb a few spots.
Yeah, no, for sure. Especially at 74, that's a pretty tough weight class in our region. It's solid. So, let's keep on keeping on. I think the next thing I got on the agenda for us is just jumping into this interview with Connor McDonald. I really enjoyed that. It's been a while since I caught up with him. I know he mentioned he saw Reed and Latrey out at Super 32, but I haven't talked to him actually in person in a few years, so that was awesome.
For sure, yeah. Connor was awesome, dude. He came in, it was my senior year, his junior year. But a lot of fun. He mentioned a couple times in the interview he did things his own way, which I always appreciated the transparency there because he was in some ways the best teammate and in a couple ways not the best teammate. But the not the best teammate was always the competitive side. Like, he wasn't necessarily the guy you wanted to have to count on because he didn't necessarily at the time love it the same way everyone else did. He had just come from Lehigh, with high performing D1 program, and he had knocked off some big names, and for whatever reason he had become a little disillusioned and wasn't as in love with the sport as you would hope. So yeah, he was kind of taking a little bit of a different approach, and so that got frustrating at times, but also you want to talk about somebody who just cares about his teammates. Like, he's such an awesome person. I loved hanging out with him. It was funny, the day before we had this interview, you and I were actually talking unrelated to wrestling or anything. We were talking about Mexican food and got on the topic of guacamole, which I'm not a huge fan of.
So he says.
Well, I said the same thing to Connor McDonald 15 years ago.
Right.
And, he's like, you haven't had good guacamole. I'm like, nah, I've had a lot of guacamole. I never liked it. And he was like, I'm going to make you some guacamole. And he did over at his house right there on Bachman Street, probably 300 yards from where we're at right now. Made some guacamole. He cooked steaks, made some guacamole, all that kind of stuff. And I actually ate it, and it was actually good. So his dad used to be a big-time chef, and Connor knows what he's doing around the kitchen as well, which we didn't discuss in the interview. But fun fact, Connor McDonald knows how to cook.
Good to
And
know.
he made me some delicious guacamole, and it's the only guacamole I've ever liked.
Hey, fun fact. There you have it. So let's jump into this interview with Connor. Here we go. What's up?
I got the audio on.
Yes,
Yep.
Can
sir.
you hear me?
There we
Oh,
go.
all right. I was trying to figure it out. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm
What's
good.
up,
How about
dude?
you?
How are you? I'm doing great, man. I'm sitting here. We got a snow day up here. We got like a blizzard going on, so we got about 10 inches of snow on the ground. We never get snow like that, so it's we're just kind of sitting at home and hanging out around the fire today.
Nice, man. That's brutal.
Yeah.
Y'all can have it. I don't miss the snow.
Yeah, no, I mean, every once in a while it's good. How you doing, Brian?
Good, man. How you been?
I'm doing great, brother. Just working hard and having fun, growing a family.
Heck yeah,
Nice.
man.
I like it.
Yeah.
Oh, I appreciate you taking some time to hop on the call. I know you're busy and everything. I wanted to just jump into it and give you a chance to introduce yourself. Let everyone know, your name, where you're from, that kind of thing, and then we'll jump into the interview.
Yeah, my name's Connor McDonald, and I'm from River Beach, Delaware, and I now live in Millsboro, Delaware, which is pretty close by. And yeah, I wrestled at Newberry in 2011 and 12. Got to got to experience wrestling with Deral and Coach Blanton. So definitely had a good time with those guys and enjoyed my years at in Newberry. And definitely missed the weather 100%, especially on a day like today.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of me. And I'm a married man. My wife, his name is Paige, and I have a daughter named Palmer, and we have a son on the way. March 17th is the due date, and his name's going to be Wilder. So
Nice, man.
that's kind of what's
Congratulations.
up with me and my family. So yeah, it's pretty good.
That's awesome. Congrats. I didn't know you were expecting.
Yeah, man, it's I try to keep that stuff off of Facebook. I try to keep my private life as private as I can. So
Fair enough. But
you
that's
know.
good news. Does your daughter, she's probably too young to wrestle, but are you gonna let her?
I'm repping the Delaware girls wrestling
Yeah.
shirt. As you can
Yep.
see, I have a wrestling program that I run called McDonald Wrestling Academy, and we have a girls program that's or a girls session every Friday night, and it's run by a girl named Emily Toady, who's a alumni of my program, and she has an assistant coach that helps her out there, and my daughter's been out there a few times. And wrestling's one of those sports that you don't push anybody into.
No.
They either find their way into it or not. And she likes to be around it. We spent all Saturday at a little kids wrestling tournament coaching. So she definitely is around the sport a lot. But I don't. She's still a princess at this point. No cross faces yet.
Right. That's awesome, man. How long have you been running that club or your wrestling club?
So my wrestling programs, I guess like 2018 was our first year, and then yeah, we've been running pretty steady since then. We have like I guess 78 or almost 80 kids enrolled, four classes, including the girls. We have more than 80 kids now. Honestly, I'm struggling to give you a honest number, probably about 80, 80 kids total. Um, we have high school beginners all the way up to high school. So it keeps me pretty busy, and I'm getting to teach the sport at a lot of different levels, which is enjoyable. I think, I've always loved wrestling, but my favorite part about wrestling is just teaching the technique and giving back kind of like what I know about the sport.
Yeah.
So that's what
You
I'm focused on.
You were to this day, man. Me and Blanton talk about it like one of my favorites to watch. I mean, you left out one of the biggest things. I mean, you were All American. You took third in the country. It was in
Yeah.
20. So I mean that was huge. So I mean, when it comes to technique, you're, in my opinion, one of the best, and that has come through our program. From a technical perspective and being able to apply that. I mean, you had notable wins. You beat Obi Blanc. He's the head coach out at, I think North Dakota State now. So
Yeah.
I mean, you know your stuff. So
Yeah, I mean, I was very fortunate growing up to be around. I give all credit to a guy named Ken Scherto who's still running camps up in Pennsylvania. My dad brought me around him, and before he was in Pennsylvania, when he was back in West Virginia actually. And this was like I was like 6 years old the first time I went there, and it was a miserable experience to be honest with you. But it really taught me a lot about the sport, and the amount of technique that I picked up was definitely attributed to spending a lot of my summers there. And um, I've always been a student of the sport. I love wrestling, and I love the technique and how in depth it can get, and how you can rework the same technique for years and learn little intricacies. Even I turned 36 in November, and I'm still
Ish.
learning every day. Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, I'm learning but I'm still learning. Like what I meant to say by that is that I'm just learning still. Especially with the way the sport's kind of growing now, and like you watch like the Bo Bassett's and these kids with these giant social media platforms, kind of teaching the sport too at a young age, and um, I keep trying to keep myself as up to date as I can, but I feel like I'm falling behind every day. You know what I mean? It's hard to stay with the times. Wrestling is continuing to evolve.
Definitely, I would agree.
Yeah.
You see that every year, and different trends and whatnot as well. And it's interesting you say that. I mean, and I definitely was not a great wrestler on top. It was pretty much non-existent when I was in college. But
Oh,
just
you got better.
being a student of the game, though, like you said, and as I put my foot in the door of coaching high school and then into college, you continue learning and developing. And now it's something, not only when I'm wrestling with the guys that I feel comfortable with, but I'm also feeling comfortable teaching it. Me and Blanton just got back from the room actually before we got on the call, running one-on-ones. And we were working on top stuff today. And 3, 4 years ago, I would have just sent everybody to Blanton with anything
Yeah.
regarding top. And I pretty much still do that, but I do feel comfortable teaching it now.
Got
So
to know your strengths, man. You got to
yeah,
know your strengths, right? You can't be good at everything. And
no,
yeah, I feel the same way. I got a assistant that works with me named Dylan Geddes, and I'm good on top, but I do legs, and I like to teach kids cross wrist tilts, and he's got an amazing series. And like sometimes you just got to know when to, like an example I can think of right now at the top of my head is like if you're going to teach the inside trip, I'm probably handing that off to BB
no, for sure.
every day,
Yeah.
every day of the week. So it's like if I'm trying to be slick on my feet, I might hand it off to you. So knowing these people's strengths and using it is definitely a big part of being a coach.
Yeah. Is that what you do full time then, McDonald Wrestling Academy?
No, so I mean, yeah, I mean, I am full time doing that, but I also run a tree company. I'm the general manager of a tree company, and I do sales for a tree company. So between that, I work probably 40 or 50 hours a week doing that, and then I do the wrestling probably another 20. So
Man,
that and doing the family stuff. I burn the candles a bit then, but I'm enjoying what I do, and it's yeah, the tree company gives me a opportunity to really be in the business world and stay in sales, and just obviously gets me out of the house and keeps me involved in the world, and I enjoy it a lot. So
yeah,
I've been doing that, and I love working outside. So that's kind of like a big part of it. I tried to do some inside sales jobs and like different jobs after college, and I found my niche in management. I get to do a little bit of everything, which is, you know, for me, that's a really good. It's a good job.
that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I know you got. I had this on my list to talk to you about. I know a little colleague, Elijah. Doesn't he train at your academy?
Yeah, so obviously Elijah. I actually before I started McDonald Wrestling Academy, I was down at a program called the Junior Seahawks in Ocean City, which is about 40 minutes south of me, and that's the program that the Trey came out of, and I was helping there, and I met Elijah when he was probably like I don't know, maybe like 8 or 9, really young, and he's an incredibly talented kid. He's a student of the sport. He works really, really hard, and yeah, I've been fortunate enough to get my hands on him for the last 10 years, and I'm really excited to see what he does at the next level because he's not only does he have the technique and but he also has the grades, and he's just a really humble kid, and he's a cornerstone of our club. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys that everybody looks at, and obviously he's a couple times state champ, so and a NHSCA place
Mhm.
couple times. Like he's got a couple accolades on his own. So it's been really fun to watch him. I actually got to spend this Super 32, which it didn't go as good as we hoped. He did win, I think, 5 or 6 matches on the backside. But and I think he's right there, with these national level kids. But I think being right there and turning that corner, we're trying to figure that out. But I got to spend some time with Latrey and Carl Reed in the corner, two
Nice.
Newberry alumni, and
Yeah.
yeah, we had a good time. And to date in the high school tournament, he's the most successful that we've had at the Super 32, winning those 6 matches.
Yeah.
So we're really trying to find somebody out of the club to get on the podium. Um, but yeah, it's been fun. It's been really
Well,
good.
let's get him a Newberry single, man.
Yeah. What size
Hey,
does he wear?
that's up to you guys.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but I will say this. I think wherever he ends up, he'd be a great addition to any program. And like, he's just
Well, quit selling them. We're already sold, man.
there you
Somebody might be
go.
watching
There you go.
this.
Sorry, I'm plugging my boy. Plugging my boy.
No,
Joe
as you
Elijah.
should,
Yeah,
man.
Joe Elijah.
And in my opinion, the Super 32, man, that's one of the toughest folk style tournaments in the country. I mean, the depth there and the talent that pulls up every October is insane. And I feel like it keeps getting, tougher and tougher.
Well, he's and not to plug him, but I'm going to say one more thing. I mean, he went 6-2 at Fargo and just missed the podium, and he did the same thing at Super 32. And I just think he's, just close to figuring out that last little bit. You know what I mean? And I just love the kid, and it's been really fun to coach him.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
I wanted to shift gears a little bit. Tell us about how you ended up to Newberry, because most people don't know you transferred in. You're
Yeah.
a Division I wrestler. Talk a little bit about how you ended up. You were at Lehigh.
Yeah, so
Yes.
I went to I went to South Central High School in Delaware, and I got recruited to Lehigh, and I spent 3 years there, and I had a good experience there. I we just it wasn't a good fit. Personally, there's a lot of things that you know not only on not only on that end, but also on my own end. I think that I wasn't ready for the I wasn't ready to wrestle in college. Unfortunately, like as much, as a 35-year-old man, you got to look back and be honest with yourself. I wasn't ready to participate at that high of a level consistently. I'm from the beach. I love wrestling, but we do it a little bit differently down here. And I'll just leave it at that. And funny story about Newberry. The way I ended up at Newberry is I was on the phone with my best friend, whose name is Mark Saylor, and Mark Saylor just happened to be in Newberry with Josh Whitelock, who's another one of our wrestling alumni.
Wheezy.
And I just happened to be calling Mark to tell him that I was leaving Lehigh and I was unhappy wrestling there. And Mark was like, "Hey, talk to Josh Whitelock." And Josh was like, "What do you mean you're leaving? Why would you not wrestle?" And Josh put me in touch, and in the morning, Jason Valak called me, literally the next morning. And I don't know Jason Valak from anybody. I don't even know who this guy is. And he calls me. He's like, "Hey, before you quit wrestling, come down here and take a visit to Newberry." He was like, you might like it down here. The change of weather, it'll be 40 degrees warmer. You know what I mean? Like, just come down here and take a look, see what you think. And I'm thinking in my head, like, well, worst case scenario, I get to go spend a couple days with my buddy Josh. And, so I came down, and obviously I fell in love with Newberry. Really, the weather was the big seller for me. Like when I was looking at that at you guys, UPJ, and I think what's it called, Kutztown.
Mm-hmm.
And their UPJ and Kutztown are kind of like the same as Lehigh in terms of the weather is just like, I don't know, they're it's like a little bit north of us, and it's just cold, and it's dreary. So Newberry was a nice change of scenery, and I really didn't think I was going to wrestle. And Jason, kudos to Jason Valak for keeping me involved in the sport. From being somebody I didn't know, and just giving me an opportunity and allowing me that first year to kind of do it a little bit my own way. I'm just very thankful that we got to meet, and that's actually the true story of how I ended up in Newberry. It was just a random phone call to a guy that didn't even go to Newberry. So yeah, he just happened to be there that weekend, and it ended up being a really good 2 years. I have really fond memories of Newberry. I really enjoyed wrestling there. I wish we could have won that national title the first year. I think we should have won that match. That was a heartbreaker, but
Yeah.
great experiences.
What match was that? Are you talking about the national duels?
When we wrestled Omaha, I think it was in the
Yeah.
semifinals. Man, we had them just dead in the rights beat and just let one slip through our fingers. But
Yeah.
that was 2011.
That was 2011. Yeah, it was at the I think you and the big dome, UNI dome. Yeah.
Yep.
So it was fun, man. And both years in Newberry, we wrestled at a really high level duels. Really talented guys. I mean, Sean Burns, Deral Brown, Bryant Blanton, Carl Reed, Zach Anderson, the even guys like Dale DeBacco and obviously Matt Oliver, BJ Young, all the Jake Elkins. We had a
Latrey.
lot of really successful guys that wrestled with us, and it was fun to watch those guys, and it was fun to watch them be successful, and it was contagious. I think for you know. I don't know, for all of us, I think that we had a really good little 3 or 4 year run there where, we were putting plaques on the wall. So, and it looks like it's kept up too. So,
Yeah. We
the
talk
excitement
about
is. Go
what's
ahead,
that?
go ahead, guys. Sorry.
I was gonna say we talk a lot about how like success breeds success. I think a lot of what was happening was, when you wrestling and you're one of 10, the other nine hammers are getting after it. Like you feel like I don't want to be the weak link here. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I think there was a lot of that going on. And you certainly haven't quite been to that level in the last few years. But one thing that I'm excited about is the culture of our program and the success that some of our top guys are having and how that is contagious in the work ethic that's going to lead to us getting back there. The number of guys that are going in to get in supplemental work and work on some of that the deficiencies technically speaking and the mindset stuff. I mean, that's more and more each year, more and more every day. And even if they're not in with me and Blanton, they're in working on their own. And I think we're definitely trending in the right direction as far as that goes.
Well, I have no doubt that the program's in good hands. I mean, I got to see both you guys' capabilities up close, and you know, I've Um, I've seen you guys have put some national champions names on the wall since I left, and it seems like every year you find a way to get somebody on the podium. And it takes more than one guy though. It takes a group, a special group coming together. Especially like you said, I think we spoke, I don't know, a couple days ago, and you said 5 of the guys on the team are redshirt freshmen this year.
Mhm.
I mean, if those guys gel and they hold each other accountable and they come together, they'll hopefully one of them finds early success and the other ones, like you said, it's contagious and you don't want to be the weak link. And I don't know, I'm excited to see what the future holds for Newberry wrestling for sure.
Yeah. And I think a big part of, why we're able to continue recruiting at a high level, which I think is going to help us continue trending in the right direction, is supportive alumni. You know what I mean? Like you mentioned Wheezy, Josh Whitelock. I mean, he's one of our biggest supporters, not only, just go Newberry, verbally, but I mean,
Financially.
yeah, he puts his, he supports us every year through the pin pool. Duddy is another one, Matt Wade,
Yeah.
all the Maryland guys, you know what I mean? They're at every alumni weekend that we have.
Yeah.
We actually just caught up for a call Sunday on some other opportunities as far as all this NIL stuff goes, and they're right at the front of that too. So I think the support that we have, and it's funny how it started. We had our first annual alumni weekend. What would you say, Blanton? 3 years
Like
ago?
3 years ago, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it was just a few guys, and I mean this past October, I mean we packed out the baseball stadium. I mean it was a ton of alumni, a ton of people coming and watch the inner squad. So it's exciting to see that grow because I think that's indicative of a healthy program and us trending in the right direction too.
Yeah, for sure. We definitely had all the plans. I forget exactly what kept us from. Yeah, I think it was a Halloween camping trip this year. It kept us from alumni week. But this year, I told my wife as we went on this camping trip, I was like, "Look, next year this is non-negotiable. It's on the calendar. Look at it. This is where we're heading." I was like, "It's warm. You'll enjoy it. We'll have a blast." And I'm really looking forward to getting down there this year. Um, I've actually only been back to campus twice since graduation. So I gotta get my butt back to campus. Not only to support the alumni and see how things are growing, but also because I want to get in the room, man. I want to get in there and roll. Obviously, I get to see guys like Keno posting pictures of them getting the sweat in, and I'm a little bit jealous. I
Yeah,
don't know if I can beat anybody anymore, but
come on
I'll
down.
give it my darndest, and yeah, I definitely am. It's on the list this year, and I'm excited because I get to bring my daughter. Will be probably like 4.5 at that point.
Yeah,
She's pretty with it now, but she'll be with it more, and I'll have my son in tow too. So
yeah.
it'll be a great trip.
It was a really cool moment. This past October, we were kind of touring. Like Quinn Talbert, he's our first ever national champ, and he hadn't been to campus in, 10, 15 years. And he, so we were walking around, but to see, I think Carl Reed was with us. Latrey was with us. He had his kid, and just to see like the full circle moment when we took them into the new wrestling room, their kids running around on the mat, and us having wrestled with them. I mean, it was just a really special moment for me. So yeah, you definitely got to come back down, man, because it's definitely changed a lot since we graduated.
For
Yeah,
sure.
I will definitely be back there in October. Like I said, I got it this year. I got it penciled in, so I'm excited. And I also want to get down there at some point. I really wanted to get down there for that battleship match. That
Oh
sounded
yeah,
really cool.
yeah.
But it's it's about, I think, like maybe like 11 to 13 hours. So it's like it's one of those with a 4-year-old in the car. It's like, it can be
Yeah,
rough. It could be a 2-day trip.
yeah.
So I'm just trying to like this year I'm definitely gonna get down there though, and I'm excited about it. And you know, I miss Newberry, man. I have very fond memories of the weather down there. I just maybe retirement I can talk my wife into moving south. But
Yeah. There you
we're Delaware people. We're Delaware people, so it's hard.
go. No, that's awesome, man. So I wanted you to just share a little bit, especially now that you're coaching. I mean, talk a little bit about how your perspective has changed just with regard to the sport and training, and really just any insight you can give, hindsight, looking back as a 35-year-old man now, just advice you can give to guys on the team and how you may have approached things differently, how you maybe would have changed your mindset if you could go back and do it again.
Yeah, I mean, I think the number one thing that I probably got wrong growing up, at least for in my opinion, is like the amount of wrestling that I maybe like did, or the amount of competing that I did versus just like getting in the room and working on skills. I feel like with my higher level wrestlers, now we wrestle like 5 or 6 big tournaments a year, and we focus on like training in between. So we really just like focus on doing really well at the high level tournaments and being prepared for those opportunities. And then I feel like by not competing as much, the kids in my program are staying a little bit healthier. Which I think has like been a big focus of trying to keep everybody on the mat all the time. You know what I mean? So that's been like a big shift in like we don't beat the kids up as much. There's points in time in the year when we train a little harder. But I think that like the way that I grew up training is definitely bygone era. You know what I mean? We're
Mm.
not grinding our kids into the floor.
Right.
I'm also a big proponent of uh, letting these kids start a little bit later. But in terms of like my own coaching ability, we have kids all across the spectrum. So I have like we just had a kid make the finals at Beast named Pete Snyder, and so we have kids wrestling at that level, and then we have kids wrestling at the local Pee Wee tournament. So I'm able to teach the sport and progressions. We have a curriculum at my academy. We basically have like a nine technique tree that we work off of. Everybody does the same 9 techniques, and then we work off of those 9 techniques. And I think that just like getting everybody on that curriculum, especially after 5 years. Now I have kids that know what my expectation is, which and also since everybody in the room is doing the same thing, it allows us to give names to it, and everybody knows what they're doing. You know what I mean? That's
Yeah.
definitely something that's made life a little easier on me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I just keep trying to stay involved in the sport. I really like the technical aspects of it, and teaching the little nitty gritty. And that's kind of what I focus on day in day out.
Is that technique curriculum something that you developed, or is it something you got from Ken, or like a
No,
hybrid?
it's something I developed, and every year we change. Like the first 3 years that I ran my academy, we taught like a regular penetration step, high crotch double takedown to beginners, and we were doing penetration steps, and it just was putting us in terrible position, especially for the beginner kids, and even the older kids. That's just something that I just like recognize in our program. So we kind of reordered it this last couple years where we've been going sweep single out of the gate. and kind of introducing those guys to that position before getting into the high crotch and teaching them to turn the corner. So that's like an example of just like running a program for a couple years, watching the kids at, from age 5 to age 18, seeing what they struggle with and being like, hey, we're going to teach a little bit less of this and we're going to do a little bit more of this. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want to get stuck head outside all the time, getting sprawled circle behind. So we're going to, at least if we shoot single, we're getting stuck head underneath and we can work out the back door. So that's like little changes like that. Trying to teach kids like, we teach a lot of top. And this year I was frustrated because my kids were not, they weren't getting to their top stuff. And one of my assistants said, we're not doing the pressure part. So like just watching like a group and being like, oh man, I forgot to tell them like, hey, we basically spent a practice just having the kids, put pressure on hands on top. And it's like, just trying to remember those little small things and not skipping those things when you're teaching. And it's like, every year you get a little bit better at it, but it's, it's, I don't know, it's finding, new ways to redo the same things. And, you know, just trying to get across to kids, whether it's through communicating, showing them hands on, or teaching them how to have a textbook or a video, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't matter how they can get it, just like trying to like figure out creative ways to bridge the gap and give them the knowledge that I have in a way that they understand it and can apply it. You know what I mean? Because like knowing it in wrestling and doing it in wrestling are two different things.
Yeah, 110%.
Well, it's not only just like getting creative or reinventing the wheel or anything, but I mean, like the example you gave, literally just reordering something
Yeah.
can make all the difference. Like you wouldn't teach a baby to walk before it crawled,
You got it.
same thing.
A lot of times, like you find yourself like looking at a room full of beginners and you're teaching them something and everybody's looking at you like, what? And you're just like, all right, stop. Let's go back. We're going to do something totally different. Like everybody just forget the last 10 minutes. We're going to live wrestle and we're going to restart on Wednesday. You know what I mean? Like not being like too, like as a 30-year-old man or a 27-year-old man, I might have gotten frustrated with that. You know what I mean? And like got like my feelings about it. And now it's just like, I have kids and it's like, some days 4-year-olds to 6-year-olds are going to be 6-year-olds and they're not going to listen to you. Right. So some days you just got to be willing to say, hey, we're going to do some live today. Don't worry about what coach just showed. We're going to move on to Wednesday. So, I don't know, humbling myself. I think having kids was a big, it's changed everything in terms of the way that I coach and how intense I guess my intensity is definitely calmed down since having kids. I wish that I still had that edge, but the reality is having kids kind of cut that edge off a little bit, especially a little girl. So,
right. How do you address because I certainly think if I can't yell at you for not knowing that 2 + 2 is 4 if I never taught you that, right? So there is that technical aspect of wrestling where we want to develop skill, but I mean, at the end of the day, we know it's about how tough you are too, especially when everything else is equal. You mentioned about not running your guys through the grinder as much. You know how we trained when we came through. I mean, you were going to make it or you're going to break it and leave.
You got it. Yeah.
But I think that's why we were tough. How do you not lose that when taking your foot off the gas?
I think that we train in cycles. We know when the big tournaments are coming up and we, put our foot on the gas pedal for, 6 or 7 weeks before that, and then in the intermediate times, we take our foot off the gas and we train technique. I think one of the biggest things that I try to do with these kids is I try to get them to have a voice, ask questions about their own wrestling, watch it on video and say, what do you think you need to work on? You know what I mean? Or we do a lot of video review and we talk about like, why did you think this was a good idea here? Because at this moment, even if it was a bad choice, like you thought this was the right idea, like what did you see here that I'm not seeing? This is why you should do it this way instead of that way, like stuff like that. When you're watching it with the video, if you start doing that at a young age, the kids get curious about their own wrestling and they start to watch it. So we have like, I really try to sell that part. And then I try to encourage the kids to ask questions. Like if we're doing a drill, if I send you out there to do 10 takedowns, 10 top and 10 bottom moves, and we're just doing a drill to warm up or something like that, and I walk by and you want to talk about a front headlock and we're not drilling front headlocks, now's the perfect time. Like you want to know how to score out of front headlock? I know we're not drilling it, but
Mhm.
right now is the time to ask the question. So like encouraging these kids to ask personal questions about their wrestling and not depend on me as a coach to teach what I'm going to teach to the class. That
Mhm.
might not be relevant to you. You might need something else than what we're, we might be a bottom and you might need help on top. So you're going to need to create that opportunity to ask that question yourself. So
Mhm.
I try to really like start that at a young age in my program. We do this thing called cross class wrestling, which I suggest for everybody. The younger class wrestles with the older class, and the older kids don't beat up on them. They teach them and they put them in positions. They do make them like if they don't do the move right, they don't let them finish.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? And then we do the same thing with like middle school, ninth grade, and the older 11th, 10th to 12th grade high school boys. We do a cross class wrestle. And I tell the older guys, I'm like, don't beat up on them, put them in position. And if they're not doing the right thing, stop right there and say, hey, you could do this, you could do this, give them some options.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you do that from a young age with all the kids in your program and they all start to respond to that, they start to help each other. They start to teach each other what they're good at. And that takes a lot of the weight off of you as a coach. And obviously sometimes they're going to teach each other crap. But most of the time they're going to teach each other their top thing and their little secret that, is not that much of a secret, but they know that the other kid doesn't know how to use leverage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just little things that kids can explain to kids if you give them the opportunity and if you empower them to do it.
For sure. No, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
So, yeah, that's what I mean. And the last thing I think, the most important thing is this: you got to let your kids know that you're there for them. Like, I'm there for all my kids outside of the wrestling room. A lot of my kids that wrestle in my program are some of my best friends growing up kids.
Mhm.
So, I'm like, this is kind of like family investment anyway. But, these kids know that I'm there for them outside of wrestling and that wrestling is a sport and it's an opportunity and a privilege. And if you're good at it and you win matches, that's just like a cherry on top of the privilege. And you got to like, the what you get from wrestling is that what you get in the long term from wrestling is the day-to-day grind and the resiliency and toughness that you get from the sport. I think that's what you really get in the long run. But in the short term, learning how to win and lose, and be humble and carry yourself with pride, help people around you. Like I think that those are all attributes of a wrestler. And I think that those are more important really than any of the technique that I'm teaching is just teaching these guys that we're community members first. We treat everybody around us with respect. We're leaders in the community, and we lead by example. You know what I mean? And we don't talk about it. I always tell my kids, don't talk about it, be about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Everybody can see what you're doing. You don't need to talk about it. So those are kind of some core tenets of my program and what I try to do down here in Delaware. We have a slogan here, make Delaware wrestling great again. And that's what I strive to do every
Nice.
day. I love, I'm a beach boy, so I wanted to bring wrestling, my knowledge of wrestling back to the shore
Mhm.
and teach it at a high level, or at least what I think is a high level. And I think, so far so good.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Well, I mean, like I said, it couldn't be anybody better doing it. So it sounds like what I need to do is pick up my recruiting from the McDonald Wrestling Academy is what it sounds like. So
I do have a few guys that are, I got a few guys right now that are seniors this year in the program. And they're definitely going to be good additions to any program. Both of them are really good students. So I'll plug you with them after the call. But,
I'll definitely be in touch.
um, yeah, we definitely, I think we have 11 alumni right now wrestling in college, like continuing to wrestle in college at either, we have a couple D1 guys, a couple D2 guys, a couple D3, and some, what is it called? Merchant Marine Academy.
Okay.
So we have some guys. I don't know what that is. Like, I don't know where they wrestle
I
in,
think
but
they compete in Division 3 still. Like,
okay.
yeah,
I don't
like a
know, but
coach class.
I'm just proud of that. I'm
Yeah.
proud that we have guys that are wrestling in college, enjoying the sport after doing it with me. I'm not grinding them to the point where they don't want to do it. And, you know, my goal is for them to, hopefully get scholarship money and all that kind of stuff. But really, it's just to enjoy the sport for as long as they can, get a degree, and, uh, build the community they live in. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Be a positive role model for people around them.
Definitely, man. Well, there you got it. Everyone that's
Yeah.
watching that maybe in that short area, go check out McDonald Wrestling Academy.
Thank you.
Yeah, dude. Well, hey, man, I really appreciate you joining. The last thing I kind of wanted to wrap up with is, do you have any like notable moments that stick out at Newberry? You mentioned the national champion one, but any, even if it's not wrestling related, that you can talk about, just that sticks out that could be funny, whatever, about your
You,
time you were on the team.
PG
yeah, I mean,
13 or less.
yeah, PG-13, no problem. I think one of my favorite, memories for me wrestling at Newberry, which is like really stupid memory for me, but I beat a kid named Kenny Trombetta at Seton Hill, I think, or
Hell yeah.
and it was like one of my first D2 matches. It might have been my first D2 match. It was like maybe my second. I don't know. It was one of the first matches I ever wrestled in Newberry singlet.
Was that the match we
And,
went up to like Belmont and did like a try
yep,
meet?
yep.
I
And
remember
I
that.
think it was the second match of the tri meet. So I think I had wrestled one kid that was like, I think I pinned him with a chin underhook in about 5 seconds.
Yep. I
But
remember that.
Kenny Trombetta, I was like, I really wasn't bought back into wrestling at that point. You know what I mean? I was just there. I was kind of like, floating through the wind. And I beat that kid, which I had no business beating him. I was totally out of shape. And he was ranked in the country. And I kind of just like, opened the door back up to, wrestling at the college level for me. I kind of, was one of those guys that looked at it like if you didn't have a D1 opportunity, it wasn't an opportunity. And now having, the past that I have and the experience that I have, obviously I feel differently. I had, we got to compete at a high level. And the other big memory that I have, I can't shake this one. After me and Bryant Blanton All-American, I think Jake All-American with us that year too. We were sitting in the like the hotel restaurant bar, and they dropped the program at Omaha, and
Yeah.
they were staying at the hotel. And I was just like thinking in my head, I was like, man, how could something like this happen?
Right.
That was one of those things that and then the last one is we had a great 10-day trip out to
Grand Canyon.
yeah, we went out to
Yeah.
Grand Canyon. That trip was great. Even though it didn't end great in terms of wrestling, especially for me, but I really enjoyed that trip. And I'll never forget leaving there. It was like maybe 79, 80 degrees, and we got to Cedar Rapids, and it was -10 or something. And
Right.
it was like 100-degree
Yeah.
temperature change.
Yeah.
We were, I remember the sweat. I was overweight, and the sweat froze to me running one block from the hotel to the YMCA.
That's funny.
And yeah, you know, and I also remember running around Newberry and cutting weight and being like, God, this is way easier to do in South Carolina than it is in, up in where it's cold.
Right.
You know what I mean? At
Lot
least
less
you can go
clothing.
do it outside. But I really loved my time at Newberry. Everybody there was great to me. I got treated really, really well there. I have a lot of fond memories, and it's a great little school, and it set me up for it got me back on track, and it set me up for success later. Um, you know, Even Valak, pushing me after my senior year to go and coach at Central Missouri and like continue to be involved in the sport. I'm just grateful for a lot of people that kept pushing me to be involved even when I thought that maybe I didn't want to be. Um, and yeah, I'm just grateful that I'm grateful that I get to wake up every day and do wrestling. I love the sport. I'm still doing it 4 days a week at 36. So this is what I'm about, at least at this point in my life. So hopefully I get the health to do it for another 10 years, but you know, we'll see.
Absolutely. Definitely,
Yeah.
man.
My barometer is you. As long as you're doing it, I'm doing it.
All right.
Okay.
Go.
All right.
So it sounds like you need to enter the Newberry Open this year.
I don't know if I'm going to be competing at any Newberry Opens, but I will tell you this. There's a promise on camera.
All
I
right.
will see you I will see you for homecoming, and I will definitely be getting a sweat in the wrestling room. Not with the alumni. I want to wrestle with the college guys.
Nice. We're gonna make it happen, man. I'm
I
holding
like
you.
Get my butt whooped.
Nah, I'm
Hey, you
excited.
give him 30 seconds of fury though.
Yeah, that's okay. That's all I get. Hey, I'm going to do everything I got. Everything I got.
Awesome, dude. Well, hey, I really appreciate you taking some time to hop on the call with us. And we definitely look forward to when you and your wife and your family make it down for alumni weekend, but we'll definitely be keeping in touch.
Go Wolves.
Go
Have a good
Wolves,
one,
man.
guys.
All right,
All
take
right,
care.
yeah.
Awesome.
Awesome. So thanks again, Connor, for joining us. Like I said on the interview, man, he is one of the best that I've ever been on a team with. Technically, just an awesome wrestling brain. He mentioned that curriculum. I think he said they had like a 9-point kind of system.
9 techniques that
Yeah,
they
we need to get our
mastered.
hands on that,
For
Connor.
sure.
So shoot that our way.
Also, fun fact, I don't know if you've picked up on this, but he always called, like cement job, chin and underhook.
I do remember that.
So I don't call cement job that, but I have
Adopted.
adopted that, and for the front headlock stuff that we show, I do very specifically refer to it as chin and underhook.
Well, it's a very good way to distinguish.
For sure,
You know?
but I want to be clear, Connor McDonald does
Came up
deserve
with
a
that.
little bit of credit for that.
Nice. Well, yeah, thanks again for the Pack Leader interview, Connor. Next up in our Everything Else segment, the brackets for NWCA National Duels are out, and I just kind of wanted to make everybody know, or let everybody know what those are. St. Cloud has the 1 seed, UCO 2, Nebraska Kearney 3, Glenville State 4, McKendree 5, Augustana 6, UW Parkside 7, and Tiffin is at number 8. So those brackets are out, and you can find them on the NWCA website. That's always a really great tournament with some really good wrestling in there and the nation's top teams. It is a bit expensive to get to, so that's why a lot of teams choose not to make the trip out there. But it is a really good tournament, and so I'm excited to follow and continue watching. But that's happening. We also got fun fact. I was just at the house cleaning up, and I saw UTC had their first ever champ.
Yeah.
At the scuffle.
Which is crazy because when Greensboro dropped the program, Chattanooga adopted the tournament, and you would think if you host a tournament, you would have a champ.
That was a long time ago too. Last year was their first ever finalist.
Right, which is crazy.
And Isaiah Poe, and I forget the other guy.
But yeah, so UTC, shout out to them for getting a Southern Scuffle champ. But also, it's not a easy tournament. I mean, like Penn State's won it, and you can enter multiple guys. So like, there's been years where like Penn State has like both finalists.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. So, definitely a tough tournament, but shout out to UTC, and hey, shout out to old buddy from the Citadel.
Patrick
Brophy.
Brophy, yeah.
Brophy from Chapin.
Yeah.
He went to school at Chapin right up the road, ended up going to the Citadel, and
He made the finals.
he was a finalist, took second, so shout out to him.
Yep. So that's pretty much all I got in the way of everything else, with the exception of our upcoming games to note. Hit us with that, BB.
Games of emphasis, Wednesday, January 29th, we wrestle Allen at 7 p.m. here, so that is a game of emphasis. Also, Wednesday, February 5th, Acrobatics and Tumbling versus King, that's at 6 p.m. here. And then Friday, March 28th, Baseball versus Coker, 6 p.m. Smith Road Complex. And those are the games of emphasis coming up in the near future, at least.
Go ahead and cut you off, but to make sure everyone's clear, the games of emphasis are what our athletic department says. All right, these are the one event on the calendar for each team that we're really gonna, just really put out there and advertise, and we want to try to get a big crowd. So for wrestling, that's that Allen one because it's our home meet, and I think that'll be senior night
for
us
sure.
as well.
And then we got Acrobatics and Tumbling, which is a newer program here.
Yeah.
And then baseball getting rolling by March. They're home versus Coker, which Coker actually has a pretty strong baseball history. So them, Lander, Mount Olive, probably 3 of the bigger teams in our area. I think North Greenville actually had a big run a couple years ago, but our baseball program's been really solid the last couple of years. So a game of emphasis for baseball is probably something you want to show up for.
Oh, definitely. And then coming up this week in Newberry College Athletics, women's basketball will be at Anderson, and men's basketball as well, 5:30 and 7:30 respectively. And then back at it again, women's basketball, men's basketball this Saturday versus Carson Newman, but that's at home at 12 and at 2. So if you're around, please pop out. It's a time of the year where literally the only teams here right now are us and them. And so, we wrestled the other day, and any other time, like the environment at a home match or a dual match is really fun to be at, and it still is, but just you really feel it when the student body's not here because there's not a lot of people to come out. So if you're free and you're able to come support, especially this Saturday, men's basketball and women's basketball, please go be there and cheer them on. Also, thank you to men's basketball.
Yes.
They showed up in a way that we really needed them on Friday to help move those massive mats from the Mills to Eliezer. So thank you guys for doing that. It's funny how our guys dread it, and they look like they were having so much fun.
Right. I don't think they would have as much fun if it were like a weekly thing.
Right.
But yeah, no, they enjoyed it, and we do appreciate it. Also, hey, shout out to you guys, because like you just said that you feel a little bit more when school's not in session because all the athletes aren't here. It really was not a bad crowd the other night.
No.
And so the community, the supporters, everybody who's showing up, hey, thank you guys so much, because it really was not a big drop off. We actually had a really solid crowd the other night with no class going on. So no students on campus other than a couple sports, and maybe not packed, but pretty full stands. So it was a great environment for a home duel.
Definitely. Coming up, we got Belmont, like I said, tomorrow at 5 p.m. Please note the change from 7. Originally, we were supposed to wrestle 7, but they actually have a duel with Limestone too. So we will wrestle them at 5 p.m. And you can stream that on the Conference Carolinas network and watch and tune in. And if you're in the area, it's just outside of Charlotte, please come and support the team. So we have that. And then this weekend, we travel to Gunnison, Colorado, where we will take on a few different teams in the Tracy Boyle duels. Round 1 is going to start on Saturday morning at 10 a.m. We're going to wrestle Adams State on mat 4. Round 2 at 11:30 a.m. We'll wrestle Western Colorado at 11:30. Round 3 at 1 we'll wrestle New Mexico Highlands on mat 3, and then round 4 at 2:30 we'll wrestle
Colorado Pueblo.
Thank you. You got it. All right. So, and I'll send that schedule out as well to everyone, in my monthly email. But please, tune in and support. I think outside of Kale's family, who's already kind of out there, I don't foresee us to have a lot of people traveling.
Right. Also, just to make a note of something, you mentioned Belmont Abbey tomorrow at 5, and Tracy Bordel's this weekend. Those only hold true if this goes out today. So I'm going to put you guys on the spot. How soon do we plan on this being out so that we can make sure our folks are accurately looking in the right place?
Tomorrow at the latest.
Okay, tomorrow at the latest. So tomorrow, it may be today that we're wrestling Belmont Abbey, in which case, hustle to Charlotte or log on and watch us live. And then this weekend at Tracy Board Duels will still be active.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in. Again, you can watch this podcast on YouTube, but you can also stream it on the go as far as Spotify and Apple Music goes. So please tune in, please share. And we really just appreciate all the support and everyone, not only, through the pin pool, but just for everyone who supports Newberry Wrestling in general. And if you haven't, please give us a follow on social media, but we'll see you guys next time. Thanks.